Well, it's a San Francisco taxi drivers rally because a lot of San Francisco taxi drivers have told me that they don't feel supported by the city and county of San Francisco, and that they feel like they're just a revenue generator for the SFMTA. And so we're here to, you know, Peter Witt here and myself are out here to voice out and let the public know that there are some changes that happen within the taxi industry.
San Francisco taxi drivers and the sale of their medallions. What about the taxi drivers out there? I worked last night as a taxi driver in the city and county of San Francisco. I made a whopping $65.
I'm Dean Clark, and I'm here representing the cab drivers with their unfair treatment in the city and county of San Francisco.
What you are asking for, or what's your concern, what the city is doing?
Well, what our major concern is that there seems to be a movement to take money from the taxi drivers and help to support Muni and the SFMTA operations. And some of the concerns that the taxi drivers have expressed to me are health care, uninsured motorists, a lot of public safety issues, no driver representation. It continues into credit card charges. I guess another cab company is going to be imposing more credit card charge that the taxi drivers will have to pay. So they keep dwindling and reducing the driver's income to make it unappealing for people to drive in San Francisco. There's also several things like gate control, meter increases.
I was wanting to talk about the legal fiction of independent contractors, and the thing is, it's an excuse for the employers, and because that's what they are, not give benefits, not give
part of bus service. Now taxis are part of bus service. I have a problem with that because I think they're in a direct conflict with each other. I think they vie for the same customer base. I think that when Muni is bad, then people say, oh, we need more taxis. And when taxi service is good, which supposedly it had been for a long time, Muni service is usually improved.
Paratransit and deposits for drivers to start driving. Currently, the deposits that are being charged are anywhere from $500 to $1,000.
All the onus of the person to do their own taxes, to pay the gate, and which is enormous.
But I mean, is there the majority of taxi drivers supporting your position, or what's going on?
You know, that's the tally on that is yet to be discovered, but
I mean, it used to be when it was $75, I thought it was bad. I thought it was high when it was $35. Now it's just, I mean, it's crushing for people. I mean, I don't know how taxi drivers do it.
Why this city had to do with your
22 years.
benefits?
What does the city have to do with the benefits? Well, I feel as though with the SFMTA starting the pilot program, the medallion program last year, or a couple years ago, they're taking money from the taxi drivers and the sale of medallions, and they're placing that money to help out the bus drivers, to help support Muni. I have an issue with that, because they take a higher percentage to do that than they do to put into a driver fund. And if you're taking the money from the taxi drivers, the majority of it should go back to the taxi drivers, and then take a smaller percentage and put that over to the Muni drivers.
I know a lot of cab drivers have families. A lot of cab drivers work 5 days, 6 days a week. When you get a cab, you have to wait for your cab about 1 or 2 hours if you're just a regular driver, which I would say 75% of the cab drivers out there are just regular cab drivers.
I mean, they got to subsidize, and they got to feed their families.
I understand that Muni is in a disarray, but you got guys out here that are driving taxis that have no health care, no retirement, no benefits whatsoever.
If not more. When you, in other words, the fatigue factor, you work a 10-hour or 12-hour shift, you wait 1 or 2 hours to get a cab, it takes 1 hour or 2 to turn in your cab.
What are you most?
And I still have to pay about a 30% income tax off that $65 I made. Yet I work out there with no health care.
You don't want the MTA to oversee you? Is that what you're out here about?
Well,
or is it multi-pronged?
It's multi. You know, There are a number of problems. Number one main problem is MTA. There is a total conflict of interest. Number two problem is they don't know what they're doing.
You know, and tips alone won't do it because you're dependent on the mercy or generosity of your customers, which is never that good. I mean, in a sense, this is good sometimes if you get lucky, but there's a lot of people, the same people that don't want to be taxed, don't want to give tips either.
We've been switched over. The Taxi Cab Commission is no longer in existence. We've been moved over to the San Francisco Municipal Transportation Authority, the SFMTA. And since we've been placed over there, there's been some ingenious ideas that have come out that I do support, but then there are also the idea of selling the medallions came out in order to help support the SFMTA.
They're being run by a taxi advisory council, which is made up mostly of big companies and political.
What happened to the Taxi Commission? How did that disappear 2 years ago?
Yeah, that disappeared.
Why
did that disappear?
Why, how, when, and where?
Yeah, that was all supervisor driven by Aaron Peskin, I believe, was the lead on that. You know, the answer to why, well, in Mr. Peskin's words, were it couldn't be any worse than their services.
Okay, so you're not in support of the way they did the medallions?
I'm not, and one of the concerns that I have with the way they're selling the medallions is they take a good percentage in relation to the percentage that they give to the taxi driver fund.
I work out there with no uninsured motorist. I'm not even insured behind the wheel of the vehicle. How is that so? But yet we have 1 in 3 city employees that are making
Taxi Commission. Evidently the Taxi Commission wasn't good enough for the Board of Supervisors. Now the Taxi Commission was handpicked,
and including we're driving with, in some cases, no airbags. I was in an accident last year where my airbag did not deploy and my seatbelt locking mechanism broke. And when we found out the other driver was uninsured, I was told by my cab company that they don't have any uninsured motorist for me and that the driver is excluded from their insurance policy. And that it then becomes a workman's compensation claim. And everybody knows when it comes to workman's compensation, a year later, and I still don't have an x-ray of my back, and I still don't have an x-ray of my knee. You know, they did find some white spots on my brain due to the accident, well, possibly due to the accident. They know that I do have some spinal damage. They do know that I do have a problem with my kneecap, and they do know that I have numbness in my legs on occasion.
What's your name?
Dean Clark.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Honk your horn. Thank you. Another BMW. Honk your horn. Support San Francisco cab drivers getting their medallions back.
Anything else you want to add?
The Taxi Commission was just starting to come around. The Taxi Commission could have been a productive body of government. However, with Willie Brown and Gavin Newsom picking the committee members, the commission members, I should say, it was a stacked deck, and I will just give you one example of that. The driver representative, which was Paul Gillespie.
Let me grab your name and spelling, and then you can tell me off camera all that stuff. What's your?
No, I think this is important. That one little issue. Paul Gillespie was the driver representative the whole time of the Taxi Commission. There was only one person to represent all the drivers, and he did it from the beginning of that Taxi Commission to the end of that Taxi Commission. He ended up president of that Taxi Commission and never did a thing for taxi drivers. That was the problem with the Taxi Commission, but that wasn't good enough.
Okay.
It wasn't bad enough, I should say.
Can I grab your name and spelling?
My name is Peter Witt, W-I-T-T, native San Francisco, and a yellow cab driver for 22 years.
But the uninsured motorist, if I got hit by an uninsured motorist that night, that liability insurance may not have covered those people in the backseat of the cab.
That's the problem. Support San Francisco cabbies, ladies?
Well, it's a problem that the driver's not covered, but it's also a driver. What if it was a family? This was like at 8:30 at night. What if it was a family?
You're saying that
I would be like, you guys would be paying for therapy sessions for a long time for me if I had some sort of therapy.
can the victims not sue your company?
What are you going to get?
Not you personally.
You know, what are you going to get?
No, they're a cab company. right?
What are you going to get?
I don't know, whatever assets they
It's a
have.
cash business. You can't take the taxis. Hi, how
Can I
you
talk
doing?
you 1 minute?
Sure,
How about
sure.
the people driving the illegal limo in all of the San Francisco and pick up the illegal customer from the hall hotel?
Uh-huh.
What are you guys doing?
Are you a taxi driver, or can you tell me who you
No,
are?
I'm against I'm not a taxi driver,
Uh-huh.
but I'm against the illegal pickup,
They try to pick you up.
They pick up all of the time.
Next time they try to pick you up, get in the damn car. And then when it comes time, they take you where you want to go.
Tell them you're not
Get
gonna
out.
pay 'em.
Don't pay.
You don't have to pay.
What are they going to do? Call a cop on you? You got yourself a free ride.
You got a free ride.
Enough people do that, the cabbies, they'll go to another city.
But to answer your question, you have to direct that statement to Scott Wiener. Scott Wiener is a district gate on the 2nd floor, and you have to direct it to him and tell him that you're opposed to that. Because to him, he just stated publicly that it's okay for these people that come into the city and pick up people on our streets in the city and county of San Francisco because we don't have enough cab drivers on the street. He's the one that's pushing this. He reduced the fines from $5,000, and the SFMTA regulatory body just pushed up to $5,000. He reduced them down to $500. In a closed board meeting, it was a resolution with no committee, which means that the taxi drivers and the public were not allowed to speak to the Board of Supervisors before they voted. That type of activity is what
Whistle. There we go. Honk yours for San Francisco cab driver. Yeah, what that guy said. Let's go.